G'day everyone, Grandma's handbag. Braving the bird shit and spiders just for you. Grandma's little helper, Hawke's Lager. If you can see that guy, that was a Prime Minister that is becoming a little more fondly remembered, probably because he's on a beer can and he also liked the beer as well. 80 to 71. Alright, you're going to hear me say a lot of these records, that especially the ones from the 90s and noughties, that they shaped me. Well, this one is a big one. As a 20-something-year-old, I wasn't really looking for a triple album of love songs and or even anything about the lessons they could teach me. But this one opened me up in a big way to the idea of the other. It was just so foreign to me. The title is descriptive, 69 Love Songs. It does what it says on the tin. Love songs in all their forms and permutations. Love from all sides of the fences, straight, gay, queer, other. There's love songs to objects, to cities, to pastimes. It's all in here. Myriad styles are on here. Synth pop, noise rock, country, bluegrass, Elizabethan minuets, everything in between. A sort of dazzling breadth of an array of styles in here. And it's all carried off by effectively an indie pop sort of ensemble rotating around Stephen Merritt, who wrote all these songs. It's a very precocious and idiosyncratic album. There's humour, intelligence in spades on here. I mean, there's still references and jokes in the lyrics that I'm unpacking, nearly 20 years later. It's a masterpiece in songwriting and vision, extremely audacious. I remember playing this a lot when I worked in a record bar. Well, it was a CD bar, but anyway, we did have one or two records still. And playing this used to annoy everyone else. It really, really did. I'm sorry if there's any glare on this, by the way, or all of these. But anyway, 20 years on, it's an album that I know that I'll keep coming back to. It's something that I know I'm going to grow old with.
Everyone sings hallelujah when my boy walks down the street. Life just kinda dances through you, from your smile down to your feet. Amazing, he's a whole new form of life. Blue eyes blazing, and he's going to be my wife.
Alright, this is another big one from Turn of the Millennium. This album's so important that I actually remember ordering this at the time. It took months to turn up. So this is the original first press. Yerla Tango and Then Nothing Turned Itself Inside Out from 2000. Yerla Tango, if you don't know, they're indie rockers and they've been around donkey's years. Complete music geeks through and through. And in a way, this was a band that sort of made me feel like it was okay, and even it was right to be in love with music, because the band clearly is. You can hear that seeping through all of their albums too. Obscure covers, B-sides, they really seek those out. Their 60s pop via 80s influences are always worn very proudly, and they always come up with something that is... It's just Yola Tango, you hear it and you know. But here they wrapped all of those things up in a set of really hushed late night love letters traded between Ira and Georgia, the husband and wife, as part of the trio of this band. But at the same time, it's far from simple, easy love songs and easy listening, as quiet as it is. Synths and drum machines, they seem to whir and creak, organs drone on, and they create a sense of unease, of being in love, but ever on guard. And it's a really powerful album for that element that it sort of conveys so well. It's really, really soft and intimate. Of course, apart from Cherry Chapstick, their token guitar freakout on here. Frequently beautiful, and just sometimes it's just a little bit scary as well, like every love that's ever worth having. A beautiful, beautiful album. and I'll leave you with just a snippet from that as well.
As the empty feeling turns from black to blue, I can't believe this never happened to you. I see it on the TV and I laugh out loud, but it's the way I feel right now. And as the empty feeling turns from black to blue.
78, Lou Reed, Transformer. His camp, joyous, infectious glam pop masterpiece. After falling hard for the Velvets when I was late teens, I was hungry pretty much for anything and everything, the Velvets and the solo projects could give. And this is one of the first cabs off the rank, popped up early, and I was just smitten. I mean, even in Lou's canon, I found out that it's pretty much a one-off, something he could never even try to replicate. Things got a lot darker, a lot more cynical, and pretty quickly after this as well. But for this one, there really is a genuine warmth for his subjects, something that he obscured, I think, later on. Andy Warhol's words on here about being vicious, you hit me with a flower, they just kicked the album off. Andy Warhol's chest is the star of the second song itself here. It's a stunning, absolutely stunning love song with just gorgeous imagery in there, And as a matter of fact, it gave the Church the title for their debut album. Anyway, Perfect Day, incredible song, we all know that one. The arrangement from Mick Ronson on there. Satellite of Love is gorgeous. Walk on the Wild Side with that twin acoustic electric bass and the naked storytelling, fantastic. These big towers often obscure for me though, the deep cuts. Songs like Hangin' Round, Wagon Wheel, I'm So Free, I think they're really, really underestimated in amongst those great big hits on there. Makeup, for me, a beautiful, tender, and subtly erotic kind of love song as well. Wonderful stuff. In other hands, these songs could be clunky or forced, I think, but Transformer speaks of taking chances and opportunities for Lou. There's lightness in there. It's almost like lightning striking, I think, of that magic of having David Bowie and Mick Ronson, working on and being able to take this bunch of complex feelings about factory characters that had surrounded Lou and somehow turning him into this whole album of perfectly cooked tracks. And to me, the ending, Goodnight Ladies, even that feels right. Brilliant stuff. Number 78, Lou Reed. Alright, I'm going to level with you guys here. I'm pretty much a jazz novice, and this following one is my highest ranked jazz album. So don't hold it against me, I'm here for the education. But anyway, in some ways this album, as well as showing this as a jazz album, is a bit of a cop-out. Miles Davis in a Silent Way. It's like the jazz album you champion when you don't really know jazz. I'm not ashamed to put this up here though. Beautiful album. It makes it on its own merit because it's a jazz album for me that's risen above all others. It's accessible. It's very subdued. It's not challenging, but they're not the weaknesses. They're strengths. I feel like I love that it's approachable. There's this subtlety and this kind of assuredness at play, and it feels like this gentle teacher for jazz that puts you at ease in a silent way, as the band sort of builds something up, and it feels to me quite muscular and yet pretty fragile as well. Miles is free to enter and step back as he needs, augmenting the band but never ever dominating. I love that cover. Look just how Miles is the beatific new directions in music, how it says down here. I also love how the producer and Miles, Teo Macero, cheekily sort of cut off pretty much the first third of each song and then repeats it at the end of the side. So you almost get 2/3 of an album. But I'm okay with that. It really kind of works. It's ambient jazz, calm. Miles taking this, like, as far as his career, a premeditated breath before sort of jumping headlong into the fury, all the electric stuff. But for this album, I can be in just about any mood to get into it. Miles Davis, number 77. 76, Seafeel with Keek. This is their first album, originally on Too Pure. This is a reissue from 2013. And we're talking here amorphous liquid shoegaze. One of the best albums of the genre for me, there is no doubt. It's almost an electronics album, I think of as this electronics album that's made by a band. Not that you'd know it was a band that's sort of really doing it really, but what they do is they take dance and electronica structures of club tracks, break them down into repetitive, trancey, dubby rhythms, you know, organic feeling things that a band can do. You know, you'll notice a heartbeat bass sort of throbbing away, and then textured guitar sort of almost beyond recognition of being a guitar swirls around, and it makes these songs bend and shift and refract. They leave you chasing echoes, reflections, and you sort of get hopefully wonderfully lost within them. I think it's also find it thrilling stuff in a very, very subtle way. The Seafeel were a band really ahead of the curve with this album, I think, bringing organic sounds into electronic music and making it a real living, breathing kind of being. After this album, the equation would shift. The band would go much more into electronic realms, synths and samplers, and to my mind, to diminishing effect. It just became more like their contemporaries than something unique. But this album easily takes up for me the mantle that Loveless threw down and suggests new ways that shoegaze could have been reborn, which it was, and it took 5 to 10 years to happen, following very much in the mould of this one. Fantastic stuff. I'm going to leave you with a sample of Climactic Phase number 3. 75, the Hummingbirds Vava Voom. This is their second and final album, Australian band from 1991, and it's a power pop gem. This is one of those albums that manages, you know, throughout its troubled genesis to shine brighter than all of that. The two guys here, you've got Simon and Robin. These two were in a relationship that was fracturing at the time. Was being tested personally and professionally by the band, breaking up, and they later had a son between them, sort of as a result of this as well. All of this stuff plays out in the lyrics on here. There's record company aggravations on the marketing. You can see there that Robin's hair has been shaved off. Basically, they were trying to market her as a star of the band, the beauty of it, and when she got wind of that, she shaved her head the night before this cover photo was taken, and it stuck. They lost their tour support in the US, so all of these things in a confluence to sort of try and stymie the band, but they managed to get enough money to finish their second album with Mitch Easter from Let's Active and REM, and he does a stunning job here. His production's a wonder. Sparkles and shimmers, I don't know, muscly yet deft. The guitars are really the star in a way. They chime away, you know, dream poppy and textures that start to creep in there as well. Guy and girl vocals in there, wonderful harmonies, horns, strings, it's all there. And it sounds beautiful. It just shimmers beautifully. But for all of that, it's very easy to overlook just how well crafted these songs are. They're really thought after. This album starts with a beautiful intro and a coda. Just a wonderful way to introduce the album. No two songs ever seem to feel the same on here. They could all be your favourite song. I don't know, it can change all the time. And you can kind of hear the band as well, leaving nothing in the tank. It's like they knew this was their last shot, their way to, nail down their legacy. And boy, did they do it. They really got it right on here. So yeah, let's have a listen to some Hummingbirds. From one power pop classic to another, yes, Big Star. We know Big Star's Radio City, second album, 1974. Look, this is a really hard decision for me. I could put any one of the Big Star's first three albums in here, and it really depends on the mood that I could go in. So, pragmatically, to get one, work out how it would get in the top 100, I went for this one because for me it splits the first and the third album just perfectly. It's got those echoes of Chris Bell and the pristine pop of number one record, but then it's rawer, more soulful somehow, and it's got that disintegrating part that creeps in and takes over on Big Star's third, Sister Lovers. I don't know, you get this manic edge at times, like Chilton taking on lead and rhythm guitars, hacking, and I don't know, he just pulls some things out that amaze me. Jody Stevens on the drums, tripping and falling to get every fill and things in. It's electric, It really foreshadows that disintegrating brilliance of third. Oh My Soul on here starts like they got something to prove, and yet the album, starts to feel like it's already going off the rails. Unpredictable and a little menacing at times as well on here. But then, you get the pristine moments of September Girls, and look, I'm in love with a girl. Just incredible stuff. Like I said, could be any one of Big Stars, but I've gone with Radio City just because it rides that beautiful knife edge between pristine and ragged. Wonderful stuff. Alright. We're getting through this here. Okay, we got a contentious one now. Look, this is a compilation. I should exclude these in the top 100 albums, but I'm putting it in because it's a covers album by The Church called A Box of Birds. This album is one of those cannons that kind of shot me into record collecting. So when I grew up, most Aussie bands you heard on the radio were the pub rockers like AC/DC, or you'd hear Men at Work, all these sorts of things. They were played and even flayed on the radio. You didn't really get to hear a lot of other stuff. And I felt like I had nothing in common with the music or its fans, They just didn't resonate with me. The Church, though, they felt very different. They were ones that I remember them first with the mysterious Milky Way and then Metropolis as a kid. They sort of stood out. They were a band that had history, but they weren't like anyone else around at the moment. And with this album, I think they showed they were very, very relevant. Any of the bands that they had on here, I had to look out for. So check out the track list on this. Look, The Faith Healer, Alex Harvey Band, It's All Too Much, George Harrison, The Beatles, Hiroshima Mon Amour by Ultravox, followed by the Porpoise song, The Monkey's Head, Decadence by Kevin Ayers, The Endless Sea, Iggy Pop, Friction by Television, All the Young Dudes, Bowie Mott the Hoople, Silver Machine by Hawkwind, and finishing it all off with Cortez the Killer. Incredible track list. It's just got a great flow to it as well. Look, heresy, but some of the versions here even eclipse the originals for me. Granted, it might have been my first exposure to them, but You know, that's what it is. To top it all off, the band here is just having fun. Like, you can really feel it ripping into the songs that they loved, that shaped them, and then they churchify them. Like, they come out, no matter what song they do, they recognizably still sound like the church. Like, to me, that's the mark of a great band, and that's why I had to put this album in at number 73. Okay, number 72, My Morning Jacket, It Still Moves, from 2003. I remember seeing My Morning Jacket touring this album, touring Australia for the first time in 2004. And they were kind of unknown to me then. All I can really remember was going with my mate, and there was incredible amounts of hair just flying all over the stage. Tons of energy in there. And my friend Chris and I, we just looked at each other and went, what the... We couldn't believe it. Was this the Allman Brothers reincarnate? Was it ZZ Top? We couldn't tell. All we knew that it was amazing. And this album is the same. From the opening notes of Margita, I'm captured every time, and it feels like that night, and I'm falling in love all over again. A double album, and it's just got this golden stretched sound. I get lost in the cavernous reverb on this album. Beautiful stuff. Jim James's voice, to me, the sound of an angel. There's this Americana twang that goes throughout the album. There's some Stonesy horns that tend to pick up after the second verse, just like they do on Exile on Main Street, on some of the songs. Just fantastic, fantastic album. It's got this high octane energy at times. There's tenderness in there. Songs like Golden still give me shivers. Rollin' Back gives me goosebumps, you know. There's nostalgia, yearning, hunger, intent. You know, it's beautiful stuff. I try to do a country trip about this time of year to get this golden light and long, slow sunsets out in the outback. And you can bet this album is going to be played out there. It's an oral equivalent to it for me. Wonderful stuff. Look, I think they made their best album after this one, but so many memories are attached to this album for me, you know, that it blew straight into number 72. Wow, I'm really powering through this, guys. The beer, that is. Okay, number 71. Imagine that you're a critically lauded indie artist in the 80s, churning out 10 albums, 10 singles in 10 years, to increasing commercial indifference, right? And a new decade's looming. What do? Well, if you're Lawrence, you dismantle your indie legacy, dismiss the whole decade, and craft an exquisite love letter to the 70s, and at the same time projecting your rock stardom through into the 90s. You make Denim Back in Denim from 1992, which kind of places this album 70s glam with an electronic edge that kind of, I don't know, weirdly presaged, very influential on Britpop. Pulp were fans of this one. The lyrics and music are littered with 70s references. They even use the crunch and stomp of the Glitter Band as a backing band here. But there's also synths, affecting string arrangements, rock guitar, and especially of all, amazing lyrics. Just amazing. Too many to mention, but I'll still mention some. All delivered by a Birmingham version of Lou Reed. The opener here, Back in Denim, has got Lawrence telling you denim puts the soul in your rock and roll, and that you'll get it if you really try. By Middle of the Road, he's tearing down rock's canon. I hate the Stones and I hate blues. The album's heart here is the 8-minute Middle of the Road. The Osmonds. And it's completely touching nostalgia for the 70s in a nutshell. Like, there's a lyric in there, I sucked it in and now it's all dripping out. Absolutely heart-wrenching stuff. And then by the end of this album, he's in there satirizing American rock, writing a pop song for Eurovision that tears his label and manager to absolute shreds, and then finishes it all by kicking the corpse of the 80s and rushing headlong into the 90s, and sure found fame and stardom with this album. It's this album that really dares to dream big, and it actually had the backing to go for it at the time. Look, it's got humour and heart in abundance, and it took me a while to figure out the humour that wasn't even this ironic kind of humour, but it straddles this satire and then absolute sincerity, which gives it genuine heart to me. A brilliant album, and like, it's a masterpiece of Lawrence's career, and a real undiscovered classic. Back in Denim, cannot recommend highly enough.
In the 70s, there were chopper bikes, Oxford bags and kung fu fights, Trojan sounds, we buried dirt. And in the 70s, there were Osmonds, lots of Osmonds, lots of everywhere.
Alright guys, thank you so much from me and Hawkeye here. Thank you so much for joining in. Let me know if you've got any of these. If you're liking any that you haven't heard. Always love hearing from you guys. And yeah, thanks for sharing with me this journey. I really can't wait to keep digging on in. Cheers everyone.